everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. I, of course, am your host, Coach Camp, and we are actually in Zoom cyberspace. We're in that transition period. If you guys been keeping up and following along, you know that we've been transitioning from one studio going over to another. So some of our cuts and edits are going to be a little bit wonky for the moment. But I want to welcome you guys back because this week is the incredible conclusion of Mr. Daniel Bell and his mom Bunny as they have battled through the trenches of addiction, and they've seen some of the worst happen, and they are now hoping to be able to be a voice for others, to be able to see that there is an opportunity to right the ship, to be able to get back on your feet and be able to move forward in life, and you don't have to be stuck where you are forever. And addiction is one of those things that have touched, I know it touches so many people's lives in all walks of life. So settle in, get ready for this incredible conclusion. I know that you guys are going to be touched by his story. I know I was, and make sure that you guys share. Thank y'all so much for coming back this week. Till I see you on the flip side, Coach Camp. And so basically, after your 4 years, here you are. You've gotten back in trouble again. You went to the team summit thing. You've spent another 4 months in jail. When you get out, you're still married. What happens next for Daniel?
So what happens next for me is it's about 2005, and my wife gets her job wanted her to relocate to Little Rock. So that was something I was kind of conflicted about. I didn't want to leave my family. I didn't want to leave my brother, but I wanted to start over,
Saw it as a fresh start.
Yeah, I did. I did see it as a fresh start. And my dad picked me up from 201 Poplar almost the night before I moved.
So you had planned to move, and then you got in trouble?
I got in trouble. Yeah, we got in trouble again. We actually, me and my brother were both in 201, and I had gotten released because he had took the charge for me, so I could get released. And I was able to go ahead, and I remember we had moved to Little Rock, right after that. And so I was, it was very hard for me to leave. Extremely hard because you're going into a new place. Although I wanted everything to work out with my wife, and I wanted a new start and everything. It's like a push-pull situation.
Sure, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, you just talked about it earlier that the fear of change is something you don't do well with. Well,
Right.
This is obviously a huge change.
Right.
And that's a huge change for anybody.
Yeah. And so obviously going to Little Rock, there was no secret Daniel has an addiction. Daniel just,
it's fully out there.
Been through that.
Sure.
Yeah, this is nobody's hiding this. So we're going to do whatever we can. So
right.
I got into the methadone clinic in Little Rock.
Okay. So you went there looking for some help.
Right. I went there, and that was my fresh start, my new start. So I go there, I get on to the clinic. Everything's fine for, we stay there from 2005, 6, 7, 2 years, about 2 years. And so my daughter, let's see, that's not yet. Yeah, 2006, then she gets transferred to Overland Park, Kansas. So we moved from Little Rock to Overland Park, Kansas, which is, I don't know if you know anything about Overland Park.
I just know Kansas is real flat.
Those are one of the top places in the nation to live. And Overland Park, it's like they have neighborhood pools. They have, the best top schools in the country. So we moved up there, and this was 2000. Yeah, it was 2005.
So, Mom, during all this time, you're here in Memphis still?
Yes.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah, we moved up there, and then my daughter was born. She was born in Little Rock, but when we moved to Kansas City, she got pregnant with my son. So about a year after we moved there, I was doing okay on maintenance at that time, Everything was going fine.
So from Little Rock all the way to Kansas, you're still maintaining.
I'm maintaining.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
Okay.
After a while in Kansas, I had some I had some things happen. I would go back and forth from Memphis to Kansas a couple of times, and I relapsed a couple of times in there. Going back and forth and stuff like that. My brother would come up with me a lot to sometimes to Kansas, and it ended up getting to a point where I stopped the methadone. And I don't know, for anybody who's ever been through methadone withdrawals, it's one of the worst you've ever been. It almost killed me.
I had a person tell me it's like it makes your bones hurt, is the way she described it.
It almost killed me. Amber ended up having to take me to the emergency room after 30 days of no food and little water. And so
let me ask you, so you say you quit methadone, so were you just trying to quit all drugs, period? At that point?
At that point, I just, at that point, I was at a time in my life where I was just kind of like, I just want to stop.
Just want all of it off.
I just want to stop.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to stop. And so I went through that for a month. That was, extremely hard to go through that.
Sure.
And I still remember the darkness of that 30 days. And then after that 30 days, I went straight back to Memphis and started again.
So it was almost like there was the cracks in the dam, and it took that moment and it broke free. And now here you are back in that same habit, which, let's just be honest. Let's be fair about this. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when people get to those difficult roads that they're going to get to without certain tools in place, and you have that craving and that confliction of mentally, you understand it's the wrong choice. You don't want to do it, but you realize if you go down that road, it will alleviate the pain you're going through, at least for the moment. So it's an easier decision sometimes.
Right.
And is that kind of what led you to that?
It wasn't only my pain though. It was the fact that Amber was taking care of the kids. I wasn't doing much.
So
I didn't have a
guilt
job.
On top of
I had a lot of guilt. I had a
you.
lot of shame on top of the cravings from not being on the methadone anymore. And so everything just come to a head. So I hit the road and went back to Memphis.
See if you can explain this, because people would say, looking at this that's never dealt with it, they would say, Daniel, but making that other choice only adds to the problems. Well, that's obvious for a person that doesn't have those problems. So can you vocalize, or can you articulate how that you rationalize? Yeah, but this is why I needed to do it.
So in the past, up to this point, that's what I had done. Up to this point,
you do what you
I haven't learned a way out yet.
That's right.
If I had figured a way out yet, I wouldn't be withdrawing off the methadone.
There you go.
So, at this point, that's the go-to. That's that's what you fall back on in the mentality of an addict. When stuff goes wrong or you just don't know where to go, that's where you go.
That's right.
Because there's at least relief in that. Even though it's temporary, it's relief. So that's what I did.
The rationality is not the same, and
right.
For a person in your position and other people that's been there, they know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
The reason why I have these conversations is I want somebody that's on the other side of this that they cannot relate in that sense. Maybe they can show some compassion and understanding, because the reality is people that make those decisions are not always making those decisions because they necessarily want to. They just don't know anything else. Yeah. And they may want to be different than that. And Mom, when he comes back to Memphis, are you here? Are you here in Memphis at that time?
Yes.
Does he come back to stay with you?
No.
No. So when you come back to Memphis, how much are you a part of this with Daniel and his brother? Because obviously they're both still struggling. Mom, you clearly have been doing the things you knew to do. What is life like at that point when he comes back to Memphis?
Well, I just would hope for the best for him, be supportive for him, just hope that he finds employment and, he would do some of the rehabs and things like that. And, just hope for the best for him, really.
Mm-hmm. And what
There's
about
a
with you?
key point that I want to hit right here before, when we moved to Kansas City and all that. And then I left, leaving Kansas City. Was when I got divorced in 2010. When I ultimately left Kansas City. I didn't leave immediately. I went to stay with a friend of hers. Yeah.
It was kind of strange that I had some friends in Memphis that had a single. She had a brother. He'd never been married, bachelor, had his own house, and literally it was just blocks from where he lived. He lived in Kansas, and so Amber pulled the plug and left with the kids. It was so horrible. I was there. He had to peel his daughter off of him. She was screaming. She didn't want to leave her daddy.
How old was she at that time?
She was 5?
Oh wow, yeah.
And so Daniel's there. There's no job, no house, no anything. And so I'm talking to my friends in Memphis, and they're like, "Well, wait a minute, Overland Park. I've got a brother who lives there. Let me just call and see if he could use a roommate for a little while." And so you want to take it from there, Daniel?
Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll go over there and talk to him. So I went over there, and I lived on 79th Street. It happened to be over on 84th Street. It wasn't
what
that
are the
far.
chances, huh?
Wasn't that far from where I lived.
Wow.
And so the guy's name was David. Really, really nice guy, really smart guy. He was a computer programmer, and he worked for a top company in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. He also had cancer. He had terminal cancer.
Oh, wow.
When I knocked on his door. And the last thing I think he needed at that time was somebody with not only
divorce and
me, but my lifestyle and everything else and all that baggage coming into his house. But he said, let's try it out. Wow. Come on. So, yeah, I moved in David's house, and me and David became really good friends really quick. He helped me get back on Subutex, which is kind of, Suboxone without the Narcan in it, type thing. And so I stayed up there, went to bartending school, started bartending, and lived with David for a while. And then David passed away. And when David passed away,
but I'd like to make a point about that time period, that Daniel was actually doling out all of these controlled substance drugs to David and not taking them himself.
Oh, yeah. He had terminal cancer. He had bile duct cancer. He had fentanyl patches. He had OxyContin extended release up there on the counter and all that. And we sat up and smoked weed every night. That was his big thing. When I got off work, I was a bartender. When I got off, he was always up, and we'd sit there and we'd talk for hours. He was a really intelligent guy. He loved to talk. So we would just sit there and have conversations all night long. And, he became a really good friend of mine. And he was there for me, when I was just,
sure.
Yeah, in that dark place of, after everything had happened up there. And so when he passed,
it feels like it's just one more
it's another
ding
void
in your world, man.
It's something else. It's something else to try to learn how to deal with, because at that time I wasn't dealing with it.
But I was so proud of him, to be honest with you, because of the fact that
he had temptation in front of him.
Oh my gosh!
But he was obviously making the better choice for his friend.
Yeah, he was
understanding that person
took on the role of a caregiver. Mm-hmm. And
so I don't think that's and I understand what you're saying. I don't think that a lot of people. I make this comment generalizing, but for the people that I've been around, I don't think that folks often think that people that are drug addicts or alcohol addicted are bad people. They're making bad choices. Now, it's not to say that there's not bad people involved in that, but there are in every aspect of life. But a lot of times the frustration falls in that they like that person, the individual in their family or friends or the individual they meet. And the frustration is they want them to be better. but they realize that person can't make those decisions for themselves. It seems like they can't get them to turn that corner that they need to turn. So a lot of times folks are not, they're not as judgmental, I would say, on individuals, at least in today's society from what I've seen, because it's just so prevalent. You know, back in the day when it was really taboo, it was taboo at a time. But I think that people, they've woke up to the idea that this hits everywhere all the time, anytime, can happen in a snap. So judgment has backed off some, but it's just, man, I want you to be better, but you got to want it. You got to want to be better. So when you come back to Memphis, take us from there, because you start to experience just a series of losses that it's incredible is the best way to put it.
Horrible.
And it gets worse down.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
I come back to Memphis after David's funeral. I packed up and I helped him pack up his house and stuff, and we moved. I came back, stayed with my dad for a while. You know, my dad, he's always been there when, you know, I needed him no matter what. If I was coming down there to see my brother, if I was coming down there for whatever it was, you know, it's just never hesitation. You know, if I call, he's there no matter what, you know. It's just there's so many times you don't want to disappoint people. You don't want to let people down, and that kind of creates a block because then they don't know what's going on with you, and they can't help you if they don't know what's going on. Right. So when I went back to Memphis, I stayed with my dad for a while, and I was working. You know, I was kind of working and then coming back to the house and stuff like that. And let's see, about that time. This was 2010, 11, 12. 12.
When I
12. Try, yeah. So
when I got a divorce and I got a condo.
Yeah. So
in Memphis, East Memphis,
right,
almost on the Germantown line.
Germantown Estates. It is on the line. It's right there on Park, and that's it. They don't. So yeah, I moved back, and not too long after that, she gets a condo over in right there in Germantown, and so me and my brother are moving the condo. Right, so everything's supposed to be great.
Supposed to be.
It's her dream condo. She fixed it up as such, and me and my brother lived there along with, you know, we kind of went back and forth. You know, we went to see my dad, and then, you know, we're at my mom's, and so
and we wound up with your children for a couple of years.
Right. So they came to live with us, and we put it together. I wrote the school, the Catholic school letter or something.
Lutheran.
So you were putting your life together.
Yeah. I was trying. I was doing my best with, and I had the kids. So yeah, I was loving, you know, having the kids back around me, and that created, you know, that part of me, you know, I kind of.
It gives you motivation.
Right.
You have somebody to live for.
Right. And purpose is everything.
100%.
When it comes down to this.
Guarantee you.
And so, that did keep me in a lot of ways away from that. And I stayed on Suboxone for a while when I came back down here. And so the kids stayed there for a while. They ended up
going back to Tunica.
Yeah, their mom ended up doing what she was doing, and she got back to Tunica. And when she got back to Tunica, you know, she had been away for a little while, so obviously she wanted to see the kids and be with the kids for a while. So she got the kids, and then when she went back to Tunica, I was there, and my brother was there, and we had a couple friends around and stuff like that, and things just kind of went back to
the way it used to be.
The way it used to be.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you guys are back in a circle.
Right. And reflecting on that, you know, now reflecting on that, you know, point in my life.
What would you have done if you could go back in time right now?
If I could go back in time right now, and this is
I'm talking about from that moment in
from that moment on, and because this becomes a major point.
Yeah,
later
this is the
on.
turning point.
Yeah, This is really a turning point, because if I could go back right then, I would make sure that we left, both of us left, and went somewhere into a long-term facility.
Yeah.
And at least gave ourselves another chance.
Yeah.
At that point. And I don't know if we would have gotten it or not. Or if one of us had, one of us didn't. I don't know.
Sure.
But I think at that point, both of us needed to be somewhere, and we needed to be somewhere for a while.
And away from those people.
Away from everything.
Obviously could bring you into that circle again.
Yeah.
So when you get sucked back into that circle, you said it's around 2012?
Yes.
Yeah, 2012.
13.
Right. And
Yeah.
so from 2013 to 16, there was just nonstop in and out of jail. That's basically what happened.
Possession charges,
Possession.
stuff like that?
Well, yeah, there wasn't. I had a possession. My brother had this aggravated assault thing, but it was not. I was there. It wasn't aggravated assault. It was just a security guard that got overzealous about asking us to leave, and my brother said something to him he didn't like. So,
and those little things mount up.
Oh yeah, I mean, and they do. So when you're when you're going
when you're
back
in the
from,
system, and then they see your name again, they're like, okay, well, no, it's probably your fault. Even if it wasn't, it's probably your fault.
Right,
So,
and that's how the courts in 201 saw my brother pretty much was aggravated assault when you didn't even really touch anybody, you know. So anyway, that was a letdown. That was a blow for me because then I lost him. He went to the penal farm for a little while on that.
For a while,
and so I was kind of by myself there at the house, and then while I was there, I was still in and out of Lakeside, in and out of Delta, while he was in there. You know,
a big part of your story that you shared with me is some of the losses that you started to accrue of your friends. So can you tell me the first time that your first friend died of an overdose? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, the first one.
You remember the year?
It was 2008. I was 17 or...
Was it?
No, it was 16.
16.
It was 16.
So from 2013, you got 3 years, and then things start to hit.
Right. A girl named Deanna. Girl named Deanna that came around a lot. And actually, my brother knew her husband, and that's how we all got to be friends. And then her husband and Bobby ended up in jail. So, you know, she comes over to the condo, and, you know, me and her are kind of going out and doing whatever and using together and all that. And, she ends up overdosing. So she called me one night. She was in South Haven, right over the Mill Branch line, right there before you get to State Line Road. And there's a neighborhood to the right there. And so she had asked me to come get her, and I went down there to get her, and she was in the room in the house in there. And she was gone.
And you're the first, you found her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your first friend that you lose to drugs. Does that have a moment in your life where you think, I've got to stop this?
Yeah. At the time, the reality hit me, you know, why, just all the questions. Why did you do this? You just called me.
Yeah.
Could I have done anything else, you know? And stuff like that. And so you blame yourself for it. You get that guilt that stays with you over that. And then you just medicate it the way that you've taught yourself how to.
So that's how this vicious cycle continues, right?
Right.
And so from that person, and this, just to let everyone know, you did some recounting, up to 19 friends. 19. You lost to drug addiction. So the first one comes in 2016. And how often does that start to happen?
Almost every other month, I think.
Wow.
It was.
Yeah, it was really bad.
It was terrible. I was telling about Deanna, her husband. And he died. He died right after she did.
Drug overdose.
Drug overdose. And
Was fentanyl at the base of all this?
It was fentanyl because kind of just tracing back just a little while, heroin was the start of everything.
Sure.
Yeah, heroin was the start of everything. And it wasn't around until 2014 until, fentanyl was stronger, cheaper. It just didn't last as long. And I don't want to talk about, preferences or anything like that, but we didn't like fentanyl. We just didn't like it, but it just came to a point where you couldn't find anything else, but it just took over. Mm-hmm. So, that's when I started seeing everybody fall. And
this is where America understands this. Everyone across America. Now, I can't speak to other countries that'll watch this, but in America, from 2014 to present time,
right, there
has been more than an epidemic, whatever the next level is beyond epidemic. And it's every city. Apocalypse is a great way to explain it. Seriously speaking.
Yeah.
Seriously speaking. Because as a paramedic, we went from Macon, and I'm using me as an example, in a very busy city of Memphis. I personally went from Macon 2 to 3 overdoses in a month to 2 to 3 a shift.
Wow.
And it continues to increase. And I teach now paramedics that work in Memphis. And that number is probably higher because they constantly come in sharing stories with me of overdoses they've personally made. So you think about one unit in a city, there's over 30 ambulances that work for the city of Memphis. And they're making 4, 5 a day in certain areas of the city. And it's the same people a lot of times until it's not.
Until it's not, right.
And so you're starting to experience this. And clearly fentanyl is one of the most deadly drugs. I'm not saying that there's a safe drug. I'm not saying you should go out and you should just use only heroin or only smoke weed. But I'm saying in the end, there are drugs that are bad and there are drugs that are absolutely deadly. And this starts to become a reality for you. So over the course of how many years, so from 2016 to when, and then I'll let you talk about your biggest losses that you experienced.
Right. Yeah. So from 2016 on, a lot of the people that overdosed were acquaintances of mine that I had known for, let's say anywhere from 3 to 6 months, maybe. There were a few in there that I had known a long time, and it just kept happening over and over, and just another funeral, and over and over, and we get to
2021,
21, and I think we had. I know I had been in Delta not too long before this happened. I knew I was there not a whole lot. It was somewhere like within the summer, I think. But so 2021. We
Are you talking about when Bobby died?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want me to kind of
you can kind of
talk about that?
What happened was I had went back up to Illinois because I had moved to where she was at that point in Illinois, and I had a little place up there in Illinois.
I had moved to Illinois because I don't think he's got that time frame.
Right.
About that time,
And so my brother would, come stay with me and bounce back, and we would take the ride, the interstate. We loved it because we'd stop and we'd get on those little gambling machines.
Gas stations.
Yeah, and we loved that. And then we'd get back to my dad's house and it was late or whatever, we'd just crash out. And my brother always loved his baseball cards and his collections and all that. And it's just I left that last time and went back up to Illinois. It was late August, and his birthday was coming up in September 22nd. So you can.
Sometimes I have like these messages or feelings, like something says you really need to do this or you really need to do that.
Mother intuition.
And this is a situation where instead of just picking up the phone for Bobby's birthday and saying happy birthday or sending him a card, something said, you need to go down for your son's birthday. I'm like, cool. And we all like the casinos. So I got a casino room. I went down and we had cake and ice cream at his dad and stepmom's. And I take Bobby. Daniel's still in Illinois. I take Bobby to the casino. We have a blast. And the next day, we go out to an arcade. And we take his son, who lives in Tunica, because we were right there at the casino. And then we come back, we get some food, and we go back to the casino, and we go back up to the room. And Bobby doesn't look good. He doesn't look like he feels good at all. And so he's going into the bathroom, and he makes this guttural yell, like a not even a human animal. I couldn't even tell you. And I'm like, he doesn't have the door locked, so I open the door, and he comes walking out and takes about 3 steps and falls. And I wasn't sure what was going on. So I called the front desk and I asked for paramedics. And they come up and they work on him and they work on him and they work on him. And they finally just looked at me and they said, ma'am, the only time we have anything on the screen is when we're pushing into his chest. And they said, we're sorry, he's dead.
How old was he?
He was 43.
Right there in front of you.
Right there in front of me.
So,
and you get the word you're in Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting up on the bed in my apartment, and the girl I'd been with had been my girlfriend now for, by then, 5 years or so? Yeah, we've been together for about 5 years, and she called me, and she told me, and so I basically just dropped what I was doing and got in the car and left. I wasn't really thinking the whole way down there.
Yeah.
I was just driving. She didn't come. I didn't want anybody to come. I just wanted to go.
Your girlfriend didn't come? Yeah.
I just wanted to go. You know, I just had to leave. So I got down, and that's kind of when.
Well, we all stayed together until we had the funeral.
Yeah, everything hit me when I got to Memphis, when I crossed the bridge.
Yeah. I can't ask you to put into words those emotions. There's no way to really describe that, I don't think. A mother to witness this with her son, a best friend that's your brother. I mean, the loss at that point, I mean, for a person that has not seen or experienced such a tragic loss in front of them, cannot understand that. And so for a person to be able to explain it is just impossible. But clearly, this is just one more defining moment. Where do you go after the funeral? Because losing your brother has to be the pinnacle of everything you've ever experienced. Does it create a moment where you think, I'm going to get better? Or you
first time I've answered that question. It was actually the first time I've answered that question. Nobody's ever asked me where I went before. After his funeral, I left out there off Whitten, where it was, and I went down to a place that we used to go to. Me and my brother used to go to all the time. And I sat there for a while. And I just thought about leaving.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. That's the thing. There's no way to put it into words other than you feel such a crushing blow.
That was it. I didn't want to feel.
Facing tomorrow is going to be an impossibility, it seems.
I didn't think, that there was anything left if he's gone. So, um, but at that same time, something just kind of hit me. Something hit me, and I know it was absolutely him telling me, that this is not your time. This is not how you honor me.
Mm.
And that's not how you honor me. And so,
I just wrote that down.
Did you write that down?
I just wrote that down before you said that. How are you going to honor your brother if you're not here to do it? That was before you said it.
That's what I heard. That's what came to my mind was, I'm not here anymore, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Everything you do, you can do, and I'll be right there with you. So.
And we both feel like that.
Sure.
We both feel, we feel him around us all the time.
I've said this with different guests over the period of time, and then just in general conversations. We're not guaranteed to have an easy life on this earth, and there's going to be things that happen to people, and it can never be the story about what happens to you. It needs to be what do you do next? And in this moment, what do you do about it? Where do you go next? And so in that moment of loss, you did have a decision to make, and you did have a path that you needed to choose. Mm-hmm. And the idea that in such a moment of grief, you were able to kind of have some clarity and understand that calling it quits doesn't change the situation for your brother. Mm-mm. But being able to live each day to honor him gives you a different purpose.
Exactly.
And so moving forward from there, talk about the next steps of your life in the next year, the next 2 years, because this was just 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was just 3 years ago. So, I didn't pick the whole message up immediately. Obviously, sure, I was covered in grief. Yeah. I was covered in loss. I was covered in just anything any emotion you can possibly throw out there that would put, the foot on your head to just hold you underwater. I was under that, the influence of whatever that was. Mm-hmm. The stress, the pain, just the grief, the anger,
all of it. Sure,
all of it. So that lasted a while, and even though he stopped me that day, I did get to a point where that feeling came around again. But each time it just felt like, there's a reason I'm here. There's purpose. I'm here. There's a reason, behind it. And so everything was okay for a little while after that, until it was like right before it was close to the anniversary
of his passing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. And
you talking about the last thing?
Well, yeah.
Okay, so that was your anniversary date would be October 15th, so almost a year ago.
Yes, that's so a year ago, but you got to flashback that to August, around August. Yeah.
August 2023.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had a moment. I had a weak moment, and I relapsed. Mm-hmm. And so when that happened, I was in. I was the one that was getting his chest pumped, and I was the one that was on a breathing tube. And I was the one with my mom standing over me, and I wasn't breathing. And I don't know what went through, everybody else's minds at that time, but I know what went through mine, at that moment, when I was gone and I, came back, Dr. Hasty was able to get me back. Something changed. Completely changed.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about like a attitude change. I'm not talking about like a I don't know what you call it, but it wasn't a minimal change. It was such a strong change. Whatever happened to me that I didn't even know how to be an addict anymore when I woke up. I didn't know what that was. Of course, I couldn't tell you my name, my birthday, or anything like that when I woke up either.
How long did it take you to get back to a point of awareness? We'll call it that.
Couple months.
Wow.
Months. Yeah, I was, my memory was shot.
Wow.
And I landed on my head when that happened. So that was a lot of the reason for the memory loss. And so after all this happens and I start coming to terms with what's in front of me, something happens. I don't know what it is. People say this, people say that, whatever it is. It's just this
A miracle or
something
God, or,
something just happens. Like, that revelation that this is the way it's going to be, or this
Sure.
is how things are, and so all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere, everything changed for me.
Yeah.
And I for everybody who suffers from addiction, everybody knows that you don't go to sleep one night an addict and wake up not.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm just saying that whatever happened within me when I overdosed, when that happened, that after I'd gotten up and gotten my memory back, I never thought about using
It was like a hard reset.
It was that's exactly a good word for it. It's a reset.
It was like a hard reset.
And also, if I could just touch on, since you have international listeners,
Yeah.
and you have people that are maybe on the fence about ketamine, would I be able to discuss that just briefly?
Sure.
After Daniel got back and everything we'd been through, and them telling me he was clinically dead for so many minutes or whatever, he came back, and I researched ketamine, and I'd heard good things about it, and so he went and had 3 of the IVs of ketamine also. I'm not trying to take away his accolades or his strength or his change, but I just would like people to know that we've witnessed as a parent-child ketamine and the ability to you can just settle. You can let Daniel kind of give you an idea of his experience with that, but to me it would be all positive.
It just brings you to a level of consciousness.
Yeah.
It brings you to a higher level of consciousness where you can see problems from a different point of view. That you can maybe see things from a different angle in order to sort out what's going on in your life.
Mental clarity.
It's all it is mental clarity, depression.
Solve your own problems.
Right. Whatever that may be. And for me, it was a loss of memory, because of what happened.
Sure.
And I had no idea where to go, what to do with my life. I had no purpose at all. And so, I did that. I did a lot of things. I did a lot of praying. And finally, I decided to go back to school.
Yeah.
And pursue my degree in psychology. So I started going back to school, and I was getting A's, and I'm starting to get my memory back, and I'm starting to get relationships back, and I'm starting to just turn into this person that I really don't even know myself. I'm just getting to know me after 20 something years.
Sure.
I don't even really know who I am.
That makes sense.
Because the whole time it was just a mask that we put on when we're in addiction.
I heard this quote. I hope I don't mess it up, but the way that it was explained is addiction is giving everything up for the one thing. And sobriety is giving one thing up for everything. And I'm sure that's not, that's pretty common amongst people that have been through recovery and that, because that makes so much sense, because you do give everything up for the one thing.
Yeah, you do. But, and that's the problem that I faced for 22 years.
Yeah.
Was how to do that.
Yeah.
How to do that.
Your whole entire adult life.
Everything. A whole adult life.
Yeah.
Has been, and like I told you earlier, at one point I was living under the bridge on Kirby, and just not letting anybody know. You know what I mean? And so, and so I get to this point where I feel like I'm free, and when you have that sense of clarity, and when you have that sense of just the strength, knowing that you have what it takes to do what you want to do and find your purpose in life. I had never had that before because obviously the drugs numbed it, and everything else that went along with that numbed it, and all the circumstances and environmental factors around me, just kept me from seeing this picture of what life is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And he was actually in a treatment center at one time, and the people there said that even as a patient, when people would come in, that Daniel had a talent. They said that he could take somebody to the side and talk to them about anything and everything and make an impact on them. And they recognized that, and they were one of the people that kind of put the bug in his ear about, maybe you should go to school. Maybe you should be one of us,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where we are now. So that brings us to the story of how you and I started communicating.
Exactly.
Is you being in school, excuse me, going through your classes to get your psychology degree, eventually become a doctor, and be able to give back to that community that you realize there's such a need for. Obviously, infusing hope in those that probably don't see it right now, but they want it. And now that you've walked through these shoes, and if you don't mind, this is conjecture to a point, but it's also realism because I've lived it and I've seen it firsthand. It is so hard to accept. Understand what I'm going to say here. This program I am faith-based, but it is not about faith in the sense that people's stories come in here and everybody's story is individual. So it doesn't always lead down that path. But there are moments that I must highlight a situation that takes place. And it would be so hard for a person to wrap their head around why an individual would be allowed to go down such a difficult road and go through so many difficult moments and have so much grief and have so much loss. And for a person to have 22 years of losing friends, 19 friends, a brother, we didn't even talk about your fiance, all of these people that were close to you, having a person that you went to live with that helped you start to wrap your head around being a better person, die of cancer. You have been through things that a person would say is not fair. It's not fair. And it all started with an injury that you were on the other side of, but you still make the decision to go ahead and do one shot, maybe just thinking, all right, well, just for this moment, and I'll feel really good. And then all of a sudden that leads to 22 years of addiction down the road, in and out of jails, seeing your life waste away and knowing that there's nothing you can do, but then culminating with the loss of your brother, your best friend. A person would say it's not fair. Daniel didn't deserve that. He didn't do anything to ask for that. He wasn't a bad person. And to your point, Mom, he helps others when they are in a tough spot. But see, I see the world from a different perspective sometimes, where I know that our treasures are not here on this earth. We're not meant to live forever. We are all going to pass away. And one day this podcast will be gone. But the reality is this: you went through those tough times in a way to be given a gift that only some people can actually go through and live through. And sir, you went all the way to the point of death. And God said, no, I'm not done with you, son. I'm not done with you. I need you to go back down there. I need you to have an impact. I need you to talk to people and infuse life in them and realize tomorrow can be better than today. Don't give up. Life is too important. Don't give up. And Daniel, that's why you're here. Your kids need you. You're living to honor your brother. And your mom couldn't be more proud. So Daniel, never think for 1 second 22 years were wasted. My friend, I'm telling you, you came down from Illinois for a reason. You came across my podcast for a purpose. You ask about the purpose of your life. My friend, you're just now about to start to experience it. Don't throw it away. Don't waste it. Follow the path. God's given you a gift now. Take it. Share it with others.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sir, Coach Camp comes out sometimes. It's who I am.
I love Coach Camp. I love
too.
Coach Camp.
By the way.
Coach Camp is brutally honest and exactly
On point.
On point. I couldn't agree more myself, and I cannot wait. That is my purpose.
Yes, that's the right words. Can't wait, because now you have stuff that you're going to accomplish.
And
you're going to do
for everybody that I could, every soul that I could pull, from making that decision, 8 to 80, blind, deaf, crippled. I don't care who it is if they can stop, if they can just, come over to this side for a minute and see that even after that long, even after all that, even after everything, life's great. Life can be great.
There's hope.
There is hope, man.
And you know what, sir? You're going to infuse that in so many people. This podcast is twice as long as most, but it needed to be. It needed to be. Your message is too important, and there are too many people that need to hear this. So, sir, as we get to the finish line here, you're going to become a psychologist. I have no doubt about that. You're going to go out there. You're going to live as a great example to your kids. They're going to be inspired by you. Your brother's looking down. He is proud of you. Sir, what would you tell my listeners, my viewers right now, as you move forward, as you go back to Illinois, as you continue this path? What would you like to share with my listeners as we wrap up today?
The one thing that I think is the most important thing to share with anybody is that people have to be honest with themselves and come to a point and face the reality of their circumstances and their situation and find a way out. There's always a way out. There's always a way out. You never have to take it to that. It never has to go that far. The rates of overdoses and things like that. I know addiction's hard. I know withdrawals are hard. I know that cravings are hard. I went through it for so long. I know how hard it is. But if you could just hold on and you can just go through 1 minute at a time if you have to, you will get there and you will get through it. And It gets better, and then it gets better.
Keep going.
And just keep going.
Don't give up.
But take that first step.
Yeah, absolutely. Mom, you're a great testament to this.
Thank you.
Never giving up on your kids.
No, I never will.
Unconditional love of a mother, I tell you.
Thank you.
I find both of you to be an inspiration. I can't
you.
thank you enough for coming down here to the studio today and being a part of this podcast and this platform. And in the end, you know what? It's your stories that matter. For me, it's Motivate with Coach Camp, and you are the with all day long. So
I'm really glad that we could make it. Really glad that we could
Thank you
we
so
could
much.
be here.
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next. Keep me informed. Stay in touch.
Absolutely will.
Absolutely. So look, my listeners, you guys, you have been gifted with some amazing stories throughout the last 2 years. I have been so humbled and honored to be able to be a part of other people's story and been able to share that on this platform. For all of you out there, I just ask, continue to tune in, share with your friends, your family. Go out to my website, motivatewithcoachcamp.com. Subscribe to my YouTube. Continue to tune in. And until next time, Coach Camp out.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape,